To the Jew first, then the Gentile. Written by Christopher Turner, Heritage Weekly founder and editor-in-chief. Photo courtesy of Heritage Weekly. First, a word from our sponsors. Delve into the history and truth of Israelite heritage with Christopher Turner's enlightening books, available now on Kindle. Explore groundbreaking works like Jacob's Trouble, The Birth of a King, The Freedom Articles, and Prophecy over DNA. Each book offers a deep dive into apocalyptic judgment, the restoration of Zion, and debunking modern claims to Israelite heritage. If you're enjoying the video, please remember to like and support our channel. Your engagement helps us continue to provide valuable content. Find all 3 books on Kindle, and empower your understanding of scriptural truths today. Back to your content. To the Jew first, then the Gentile. A hermeneutical examination of Romans 1:16, a counter to replacement theology. For I am not ashamed of the gospel of Christ. For it is the power of God unto salvation to every one that believeth, to the Jew first and also to the Gentile. Romans 1:16. Romans 1:16 has often been misinterpreted through the lens of replacement theology, the idea that the church has replaced Israel in God's plan. Many interpret the verse as a blanket statement about salvation being available to all people, with a focus on non-Israelites Gentiles receiving salvation first. However, a closer look at this passage, grounded in hermeneutics, the science of interpretation, reveals a deeper truth. Romans 1:16 is a reaffirmation of Israel's central role in God's redemptive plan. In this article, we will use hermeneutics to 1. Answer key questions about the identity of the Jew and the Gentile in Romans 1:16. 2. Analyze how terms like ethnos, ethne, Helen, Hellenistus, and goyim are used in context to show that the gospel remains focused on restoring Israel, not replacing it. 3. Dismantle replacement theology by showing that the gospel's focus remains on the restoration of Israel, not a universal replacement of Israel with the church. Hermeneutics, the framework for understanding Romans 1:16. Hermeneutics is the art and science of interpretation, particularly in understanding the Bible. The core principle of hermeneutics is that context trumps linguistic interpretation, meaning that the true meaning of words and phrases is determined by the historical, literary, and theological context, not by rigid dictionary definitions. In interpreting Romans 1:16, we must ask, who is Paul referring to when he says the Jew first, and also to the Gentile? What does Gentile mean in this passage? Does it refer to non-Israelites or the scattered Israelites among the nations? How do key biblical terms like ethnos, ethne, Helen, Hellenistes, and goyim support the continuation of God's promises to Israel? Using hermeneutics to answer these questions, we will reveal that Romans 1:16 is a declaration of the restoration of Israel, rather than a claim that the church has replaced Israel. 2. Who are the Jew and the Gentile in Romans 1:16? The Jew. In Romans 1:16, the term Jew refers to the Judites, the descendants of the southern kingdom of Judah. These people maintained their cultural and religious identity after the Babylonian exile, and preserved the covenantal promises of Yahweh. The gospel is first proclaimed to them because they were the stewards of the covenant. Romans 9:4-5. To them belong the adoption, the glory, the covenants, the giving of the law, the worship, and the promises. This emphasizes that Judith's Jews are the rightful heirs of the covenant, and receive the gospel first. The Jew first in Romans 1:16 affirms that the Judites are the focus of the gospel's initial proclamation, aligning with Yahweh's Jesus' mission to the lost sheep of the house of Israel. Matthew 15:24. The Gentile. The term Gentile in Romans 1:16 is translated from the Greek word ethnos, theta nu omicron, G 1484, meaning nation or people. While the linguistic interpretation often refers to non-Israelite nations, the prophetic context shows that Gentiles in this verse refers to scattered Israelites living among the nations. Hosea 1:10. Yet the number of the children of Israel shall be as the sand of the sea, which cannot be measured nor numbered. And it shall come to pass that in the place where it was said unto them, Ye are not my people, there it shall be said unto them, Ye are the sons of the living God. This prophetic restoration of Israel underpins the meaning of Gentiles in Romans 1:16, referring to the lost sheep of Israel scattered among the nations. The Gentile in Romans 1:16 is not a reference to non-Israelite Gentiles, but to the scattered Israelites, often called lost tribes, who have assimilated into Gentile cultures. 3. Why context trumps linguistic interpretation, countering replacement theology. Replacement theology suggests that the church has replaced Israel in God's covenantal promises. This view erroneously interprets terms like Gentile as referring to all non-Israelite nations, failing to recognize that Scripture consistently emphasizes the regathering of Israel. By applying hermeneutics, we see that the key terms used in Romans 1:16 and elsewhere must be understood within the context of Israel's restoration. The Gentiles Paul speaks of in Romans 1:16 are not simply non-Israelites, but Israelites scattered among the nations. Here's how the key terms support this view. 4. Understanding the key terms, a dual usage approach. Ethnos theta nu omicron, G 1484, nation, or people. Ethnos, referring to Israelites. Romans 11:25. Until the fullness of the Gentiles' ethne has come in. Ethnos here refers to scattered Israelites among the Gentiles, not non-Israelites. This supports the idea that the Gospel's reach is first to Judah, and then to the Israelites among the nations. Ethnos referring to non-Israelites. Matthew 8:19. Go therefore and make disciples of all nations ethne. Ethnos here refers to non-Israelite nations, but the focus of this mission is still on gathering the scattered Israelites who are living among the Gentiles. 2. Ethne, thetanueta, G 1484, nations or peoples. Ethne referring to Israelites, Romans 11:25, until the fullness of the Gentiles' ethne has come in. Ethne refers to scattered Israelites among the Gentiles, reinforcing the focus on Israel's restoration. Ethne referring to non-Israelites, Matthew 24:7, nation ethnos will rise against nation ethnos, and kingdom against kingdom. Ethnos here refers to geopolitical non-Israelite nations, indicating that context can shift the meaning of the term depending on the passage. 3. Hellen, G 1672, Greek or Gentile. Hellen referring to Israelites, John 7:35, will he go to the dispersion among the Greeks Hellen and teach the Greeks? Hellen refers to Hellenized Israelites, who were dispersed among Greek-speaking regions during the diaspora. Hellen referring to non-Israelites. Acts 16:1. Paul came also to Derbe and to Lystra. A disciple was there, named Timothy, the son of a Jewish woman who was a believer, but his father was a Greek Hellen. Hellen here refers to a non-Israelite Greek, showing the term's use for Gentiles. 4. Hellenistas asigmatau lambdata nuota sigmatau, G 1675, Greek-speaking Jews, Hellenists referring to Israelites. Acts 6:1. The Hellenistic Jews Hellenists complained against the Hebraic Jews because their widows were being overlooked. Hellenists refers to Greek-speaking Israelites, Judahites, who maintained their Jewish identity while adopting Greek culture. 5. Goy Goyim, Hebrew, nation nations. Goy Goyim referring to Israelites, Genesis 12:2. I will make of you a great nation Goy. Goy refers to Israel as Yahweh's chosen nation, fulfilling his promise to Abraham. Goy Goyim referring to non-Israelites, Deuteronomy 7:1. When the Lord your God brings you into the land, and clears away many nations Goyim before you. Goyim refers to non-Israelite nations whom Israel was to displace. 5. Conclusion, to the Jew first, then the Gentile. In Romans 1:16, Paul's declaration reflects the ongoing and unbroken covenant Yahweh made with Israel. The Jew refers to Judites who have preserved their covenantal identity, and the Gentile refers to scattered Israelites living among the nations. By understanding the key terms ethnos, ethne, Hellen, Hellenists, and Goy, Goyim, in their prophetic and covenantal context, we see that context always trumps linguistic interpretation. Romans 1:16 is not a declaration of the church replacing Israel, but a reaffirmation of the restoration of Israel beginning with Judah and extending to the scattered tribes. The gospel remains focused on Israel's restoration first to the Judites and then to the Israelites among the Gentiles. This article dismantles replacement theology, by showing that God's promises to Israel remain intact, and his plan continues to unfold in a restoration of all Israel. The church does not replace Israel. Instead, Israel's restoration is central to the gospel message, and the church is part of the great regathering of the lost tribes of Israel. All praises to the Most High. Written by Christopher Turner, Heritage Weekly founder and editor-in-chief. Pioneering covenant theology researcher and principal contributor to Rediscovering Israel, a dynamic theological journal by Heritage Weekly. This progressive project continuously expands with fresh insights delving into Israelite heritage, covenant theology, and the profound depths of ancient scriptures. Author of Jacob's Trouble, the Birth of a King, an exploration of apocalyptic judgment, and the restoration of Zion. The Freedom Articles, exposing pagan lies, restoring Israel's hidden heritage, and reclaiming true scriptural power, an in-depth examination of scriptural truths and Israelite restoration. Prophecy over DNA, debunking modern Jewish claims to ethnic Israelite heritage.